Okay, so now that we've got our append query, which obviously, as we can see, has appeared in our list of objects at the site, what we want to do is we want to attach that to our form. Now, to remind us of what the form looks like, you'll see that now what it has is it opens up and it has space for me to type in the various things that I need, but it's also pre-populated that supplier ID with the highest number that we got using the new num query. So basically what we want to do is we want to basically have it that when we click the Command 8 button, that it's going to kick in the macro, which is going to actually complete the process. So if we think about what does have to happen, a couple of things have to happen. That when we click the button, we want to check that all the fields are in, and if they're not, then stick an error message up. Otherwise, we run the append query, and then that should do the job. So we're going to create a macro just by create and then macro down at the very right hand side, and here we go. Now, so the first thing that we obviously want to do is we want to do that check. So from the drop down list, if we go if, and basically what is it we're actually looking for? We're looking for to see if any of those fields are empty, the essential ones, okay? Now the essential ones, if I'm right, are the name and the so I think it actually, let's see if I open up my, I'll just go here 2 seconds. Oh, well, one of you guys can tell me what's which fields have to be present. Does it say? Either way, it's this is null that we use. But the best thing to do is actually to use the builder to do that. So if we use the builder, we open up, let's try to find the field from the form that we can't leave out. So we've got all forms, new supplier. So we can't continue if we don't have the supplier in. So therefore if we go supplier now, but if we, around that, if we go is null, put a pair of brackets round the field that we found with the builder, right? Or is null, open a bracket, supplier telephone number, close my bracket, space, or is null, open brackets, double click on the delivery days, close that, and then that's what we've got. So look, it's quite a big long expression. I'll just do it again just to make sure that we've got it. So once you open the builder, each of these begin with is null, and because it's a function, that means that it always has a pair of brackets around the value that's passed to it. So is null, we find in the supplier form the supplier, close brackets. Now then we want to go or, because obviously what we've got is that if any one of these is empty, then we want to force the error message to pop up. So is null, supplier tell, all you do is double click, or is null, delivery days, close, and that should do the job. So I'm just going to click OK, and obviously it's quite a long expression, but we know that if this condition is actually met, that this little, that what's just below it here is what will kick in if that condition is met. So the condition is met, this is the, we don't want to continue, we want to throw up an error message. So the add new action at this part is actually, very simply, it is to put an error message on. So therefore if we go to message box, and what do we want our message to say? We want to say some data, missing, something like that. Now, you can change these if you want to, you don't necessarily have to, but I like for these, because it says the type, that actually we can actually put up a little warning symbol instead. If I click on that, sorry, let's see, where is it? Anyway, from the drop-down box, there's one of them is a warning, and that basically means that it just puts a little cross in rather than a thing, right? Okay, so, and then if you wanted to title, you could. You don't necessarily have to. Now, and then, so still inside this if bit, you'll see that it says add new action, and at this point, we can actually just stop the macro. So stop macro, and that basically just pauses the whole thing. Okay? So we've got, if any of the fields are empty, we put a message box up, and then we just stop the macro. Okay? Now, to complete this, we need to jump to the very end. And the important thing to look at here is that where we put the append query is at the very end, after the end if. So we have to be after this if block. The if block begins here and ends at this end if. Okay? So which means that after that, if I have got past this, and I would have got past this if I haven't got anything missing, then I can actually open query. Okay? So therefore, if I go to open query, and what's my query name? The query name was QApp add supplier. There it is. And I don't have to do anything else. That's grand. And the last thing I can do at this point then is just put a message up to say save successful or something like that. So if I go to message box, put the message in, save successful, and then just put in information. You can change that. Just you know, the displays the no. So hopefully, and then basically at that point, this is the end of the whole thing. So I can just, if I want to, I can just go stop macro. No, actually, you don't really have to do this. It'll just run out by itself. But basically, so basically, if it gets past the if, then it'll run the append query, put a message box up, and then stop the macro. Okay. So I'm going to save this, mcr save supplier, and we go OK. There we go. Now that I've got the macro done, don't worry, by the way, remember that because the videos are there, you can always go back if you're behind in a step or something's not working right. So I'm going to close this, and I'm going to open up my form again in design view. Now I've got this button down here that at the moment it just says command 8. So I'm just going to change the text in that. I'm just going to say save record. Okay? If I want, I can make the size of it just around the same size as the other one. And if I want to line them up or play around with them, I can do that. Now, so the only thing we have to do with save record now is in the properties. So remember that if you need to get the properties up, if you can't see them, you just right click and then just click on the properties box at the bottom. So what do we want to happen? It says event. Now event is what happens. So if I look at this, what do I want the button to work on? It's the on click. And from the drop down, I can just pick MCR save supplier. I save, and I can close it down. Now that means that if I test it out now, so FRM new supplier, let's see. So supplier, so if we go Jake's Hipsters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Now, delivery days. And I go save record. Let's see what happens. You're about to run an append query. Yes. You're about to append one row. Yes. Save successful. Happy days. We'll look inside the suppliers folder, and there's Jake's Hipsters in there. Okay? Now, so the one other thing that I could have done, which actually probably, I think I'm going to just go back into my macro and just make one edit to it. So in design view, once my save is finished, instead of just stopping, I think what I'll do is I will close the form. So if I go close window, object type, form, object name, FRM, new supplier, and I'm just going to do that. Now I'm actually just going to move that up so that, sorry, it is, I've got the stop macro after that. And so if I close window, I just, by the way, moved it by clicking on it and just dragging it just above. Okay? So if I save that, here we go. And if I go, let's say for example I do, I'll just close it down here and try it again. So new supplier, so now I've got a new supplier which is 8. Ben's Untucked Shirts. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Right, okay. So, and then delivery days 3, save record, run, append, there we go. Save successful, and now it closes it down. Okay? And so that is the macro.